Everyone had already settled down, munching on sunflower seeds, eagerly awaiting a thrilling show. But who could have anticipated that these two arch-rivals, India and Pakistan, would suddenly reach a ceasefire agreement? However, even after the ceasefire, there have been sporadic reports of minor skirmishes. As we all know, India took a huge hit in this conflict and lost a great deal of face on the global stage. Many people are left wondering whether this ceasefire is merely a temporary intermission. Once both sides have adjusted and replenished their forces, will they resume hostilities? If that's the case, Pakistan might be at a disadvantage for agreeing to the ceasefire. It might have been better to press on with the momentum of victory. So, how should we view this situation? If we look at it from a long-term perspective, spanning 10 or 20 years, it's highly likely that India and Pakistan will engage in conflict again. Why is that? A conflict of this scale is simply insufficient to determine a clear winner, and it certainly can't eliminate the deeply ingrained conflicts between them. These conflicts didn't emerge overnight. They are intertwined with complex factors such as history, territory, and religion, and are not easily resolved. However, when considering the medium to short term, I believe that within the next 3 to 5 years, or even a bit longer, a large-scale conflict is unlikely to occur. Of course, small-scale skirmishes are still possible, but a conflict on the scale of the recent one is improbable. Let's first take a look at Pakistan. Some people claim that Pakistan set a trap for India in this conflict, feigning weakness to gain the moral high ground and then using China's advanced weapons to teach India a lesson. But let me tell you, this is a complete misinterpretation of the situation. Not to mention that this conflict was unilaterally initiated by India. Pakistan's stance has been clear from the start. It didn't want a conflict. Even after gaining the upper hand, its attitude remained the same. Logically speaking, Pakistan's series of victories are entirely based on China's advanced military equipment and technology. China's attitude towards Pakistan is clear. It ensures that Pakistan won't lose. As for whether Pakistan can win, that's not China's primary concern. What does this imply? It means that if Pakistan wants to take advantage of this opportunity to defeat India in one fell swoop, even if China doesn't prohibit it, it definitely won't provide aid for free. The best scenario would be to conduct business. You pay, and I provide military supplies and technological support. But for Pakistan, it doesn't even have enough economic resources to sustain regular military operations, let alone purchase a large amount of armaments to defeat India. So, the idea that Pakistan set a trap is baseless. Now, let's look at India. The reasons why India is unlikely to resume the conflict can be analyzed from both political and military perspectives. In terms of politics, to be honest, I still can't figure out why India started this conflict in the first place. There are various speculations online, such as trying to divert domestic conflicts, offering a token of loyalty for the transfer of American industries, or using it as a bargaining chip in Sino-American negotiations by threatening the China-Pakistan economic corridor. But these reasons seem rather tenacious. They might seem plausible at first glance, but upon closer inspection, they lack sufficient persuasiveness. Now that India has admitted defeat, the political goals and interests it set before the war will likely never be revealed. So, we can't be certain. It's just another manifestation of India's opportunistic thinking in international affairs. India has always positioned itself as a major power, but its limited strength and the complex international environment mean that it lacks the means to maintain true independence in international politics. This gap between its ideals and reality has made it impossible for India to formulate a long-term and stable national strategy. It's like a person swinging aimlessly, seizing opportunities wherever they appear. Take this conflict, for example. India probably thought it could gain some benefits by causing trouble with Pakistan. It also believed that major powers like China, the United States, and Russia, preoccupied with their own affairs, would either offer limited support or turn a blind eye as long as the situation didn't escalate too much. But it never expected that Pakistan, relying on China's advanced modern military technology, would deal it a devastating blow. As a result, India has ended up in an embarrassing situation, attempting to gain glory but instead exposing its vulnerabilities. So, if India wants to resume the conflict, it has two options. The first is to mobilize the entire nation for a total war and use its massive scale advantage to suppress Pakistan, overriding the technological superiority based on China's military technology and forcing Pakistan to submit. But what does this mean? It means that the situation would completely spiral out of control. Once a total war breaks out, India's industrialization process would undoubtedly be disrupted, and its economy would suffer severe damage. Even its limited industrial foundation could be destroyed in the war. The cost-to-benefit ratio of such an approach is extremely low. If India aims to defeat or even annihilate Pakistan and occupy the Kashmir region, the potential gains might be greater. However, doing so would definitely cross China's red lines, triggering strong military support from China and even direct intervention. Regardless of the negative impacts on the Sino-American strategic competition for India, this would be a catastrophic disaster, potentially leading to the collapse of its government, economic bankruptcy, and even national disintegration. India, no matter how foolish, wouldn't sacrifice itself for the United States. The second option, if India wants to avoid a total war, is to adjust its military deployment domestically and mobilize elite forces for another surprise attack. Many people believe this is a likely course of action. After all, India's defeat in this conflict was so humiliating. If it simply accepts the outcome, it will deal a severe blow to the country's reputation, national confidence, and even Prime Minister Modi's governing prestige. This setback may well be the most significant since 1962, leading many to think India will surely seek to avenge its loss. Many argue that India's defeat was largely due to a serious miscalculation of Pakistan's military capabilities before the conflict. In a potential future confrontation, they believe India won't make the same mistake and will approach the situation with extreme caution. On the surface, this argument seems reasonable, but upon closer examination, it falls apart. True, India's misjudgment and overconfidence were indeed significant factors contributing to its crushing defeat. However, this is far from the whole story. At its core, Pakistan's military technology system, largely sourced from China, delivered a dimensionality, reducing strike against India. From the very beginning, the J-10 fighter jets paired with +15 missiles effortlessly outclassed the Rafales. Later, Pakistan's air defense system achieved a high interception rate against Indian military drones. And finally, the JF-17 Thunder fighter jets destroyed India's S-400 systems. These battles shattered traditional warfare paradigms, showcasing a one-sided, overwhelming superiority. What does this mean? It means that in the realm of modern military technology, there is a real generational gap between India and Pakistan, and this is the most fundamental reason for India's defeat. While misjudgment was a contributing factor, the technological disparity in weapons and equipment is equally, if not more, crucial. Why? Because misjudgment is a matter of perception, while the technological gap is an objective reality. In the harsh arena of war, as philosophy dictates, existence is primary and perception secondary. Even if India corrects its misjudgment and takes Pakistan seriously, it can only address the secondary disadvantage. The primary one, the technological gap, still remains. Do you really think that by being more cautious, the Rafales can defeat the J-10Cs? Or that Indian drones can evade Pakistan's Silent Hunter air defense system? So, what can India do? If it wants to avoid a total war and refrain from relying on its size and population to overpower Pakistan, it must find a way to bridge this technological gap by acquiring a military equipment and technology system that is at least on par with, if not superior to, Pakistan's. But this is a Herculean task that could take ages. For India, there are only two ways to obtain such advanced technology: develop it indigenously or import it. In terms of indigenous development, given India's current scientific research capabilities, it's highly unlikely to succeed within Modi's tenure, or perhaps even much longer. As for imports, considering the superiority and systematic advantages of Pakistan's Chinese-supplied military equipment, the only viable global source for India to bridge the gap would be the United States. However, there are numerous hurdles. First, it's uncertain whether the US is willing to sell, or if it even has sufficient production capacity to meet India's needs. American defense industries are currently hampered by restrictions on Chinese rare earths, with many F-35s unable to be delivered due to radar issues. Second, India has to consider whether it's willing to pay the political and economic price of fully adopting American equipment. Even if, by some unlikely chance, Trump were willing to sell his country's limited military stockpiles to India, the subsequent training and the construction of an entire supporting system would take far more than a year or two to complete. In essence, India finds itself in a situation where, despite its best efforts, it lacks the means to bridge the technological gap with Pakistan in the medium to short term. Without closing this gap, all talk of reorganizing and redeploying its military is nothing but empty words. No matter how sharp a machete or spear is, it stands no chance against an AK-47. This reality firmly dictates that India won't be able to retaliate against Pakistan in the near future. It's not a matter of unwillingness, but a lack of capability. Without resorting to a total war, any localized conflict would only lead India to repeat its recent defeat. Therefore, India has no choice but to accept its defeat, not only to Pakistan but also to China, the power standing behind Pakistan. For at least the next 7 or 8 years, it's highly unlikely that India will dare to cause trouble along China's southwestern border. This is excellent news for China, especially during this critical phase of the China-US strategic competition, perhaps even more significant than opening up a new arms market. As for what happens 7 or 8 years from now, even if India successfully completes a new round of military reforms, imports modern military technology, and establishes a comprehensive system, by then, the China-US strategic competition will likely have shown clear signs of who has the upper hand. If India dares to stir up trouble at that point, China may not be as lenient as it is now. Even if China doesn't intervene directly, it could support Pakistan to deal a major blow to India, potentially derailing its industrialization process. All in all, India has suffered a devastating loss in this conflict, one from which it will take a long time to recover.